We see him now, and we see a king. We see the $40 million man, the star of the biggest movie on the planet, the guy who driving the vintage cars, the face of luxury watches. But what if I told you that just 12 years ago this man, this icon of masculinity and success, was sleeping on floors? What if I told you he was so broke that he could not buy his own children Christmas presents, that he was staring at a bank account that screamed overdrawn while the world told him he was too wild, too ethnic, or too big for Hollywood? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are not just talking about a celebrity, we are talking about survival. We are breaking down the incredible, gut-wrenching and inspiring rags to riches story of Jason Momoa. How he went from being buried in debt and completely invisible to building a $40 million empire. If you have ever felt counted out, if you have ever looked at your bills and wondered if the dream is dead, this video is your wake-up call. Let's dive in. To understand the height of the mountain, you have to understand the depth of the valley. Jason Momoa was born in Hawaii, raised in Loa by his mother. He's got that Midwest work ethic mixed with that island soul. He started young, getting his break on Baywatch Hawaii. You had think that was the golden ticket. It wasn't. After that show ended, Jason found himself in the Hollywood machine, and the machine chews people out. He was getting auditions, but he was getting the same feedback over and over again. You are too big, you are too exotic looking, we don't know what box to put you in. By 2008, things were desperate. He was married to Lisa Bonet, trying to be the provider, but the roles just were not there. He was not just broke, he was in debt. We are not talking I will skip Starbucks this week debt. We are talking significant financial pressure. In interviews later, he revealed the gut punch. He could not buy his daughter a Christmas present. Think about that. This is a father, a man who stands 6 feet 4 inches and can bench press a car, reduced to feeling like a failure because he could not provide magic for his kid on Christmas morning. He had to ask a friend for help. For a man, for a parent, this is rock bottom. This is the moment where the ego dies. Most people, when they hit a wall, they quit. They go back to Loa, they get a safe job, and they tell their kids, I used to be an actor. But Jason did something different. He made a deal with himself. He was getting bits and pieces, a show here, a pilot there, but nothing stuck. He was what Hollywood calls a working actor, which is a nice way of saying you are barely making rent. Then the call came. It was for a new HBO show called Game of Thrones. The role, a Dothraki warlord named Khal Drogo. The problem, the character spoke a fictional language. He wore leather, he was essentially a savage, and he was slated to die at the end of first season. Every agent in Hollywood probably told him it's a death role, it's Jeff Bridges, it's not leading man material. But Jason saw something else. He saw a chance to be memorable. He saw a chance to create a presence so powerful that they could not ignore him. He threw himself into it. He learned the language perfectly. He lived in the mindset. He even bought the horse he rode on because he bonded with it, and he could not really afford it. Game of Thrones became a phenomenon, and even though Drogo died, Jason Momoa became legendary. He proved this theory: you don't need screen time if you have presence. But here is the cruel part of Hollywood. After Game of Thrones, the phone went silent again. He thought this was his launchpad. It was not. He was still the guy from that show who died. The dead were still there. He was still struggling. This is the part of the story we don't like to talk about, the gap between the dream and the reality. For years after Drogo, Jason was in limbo. He did a sword and a sandal movie here, a voiceover there. He spent his time at Comic Cons meeting fans, signing autographs. To the outside world, he looked like a working actor, but internally he was wrestling with doubt. This period is crucial for you to understand because this is where character is his build. He was not making millions, he was just getting by. But he was present, he was building a fan base, one handshake at a time. He was telling stories to his kids, he was staying true to his style, the tattoos, the long hair, the wild man look, even though every casting director wanted him to cut it off and be normal. He said in an interview, "I could not get a job for 2 years after Game of Thrones. I was like, I'm done." Ladies and gentlemen, if you are in your 30s and 40s right now, you know this feeling. That feeling of treading water, of doing everything right and getting no promotion, of working hard and getting no reward. Jason was there for years, but he made a choice. He decided that his identity was not in his bank account, his identity was in his resilience. And just when the rope was about to snap, the phone rang. Zack Snyder called. He wanted Jason to play Aquaman. Now, at the time, Aquaman was a joke. Saturday Night Live made fun of him. The public thought he was the guy who talks to fish. It was seen as the least cool superhero job in the world. Jason could have said no. He could have held out for something serious. But remember his philosophy. It's not the role, it's what you do with it. He took the leap. He went to the gym and transformed his body into something superhuman, not just for looks but to embody the power of a king of the seas. He brought the mana, the aloha spirit, the fierce protectiveness he had for his own family into the character. Then 2018 happened, Aquaman was released and it broke the world. It grossed over $1.1 billion. Let me say that again, billion with a B. It became the highest grossing DC film of all time. Suddenly the guy who could not buy Christmas presents was the most bankable movie star on the planet. The too big, too ethnic, too weird guy was now the face of a franchise. The debt wiped out. The 40 million net worth started building right here. But here is why Jason's story is different from other actors who just got lucky. He did not just cash the check, he paid attention. While he was on set, he was learning, he was watching the directors, the cinematographers, the producers. He realized that if he only acted, he was just a cog in the machine. To build wealth, to secure his family's fortune, he needed to own the machine. He started his own production company, Pride of Gypsies. He started directing, he launched his own brand of vodka, he started creating content for Apple TV, for Netflix. He stopped waiting for the phone to ring and he started making the calls himself. This is the lesson. The money did not come from Aquaman, the wealth came from what he did after Aquaman. He turned his 15 minutes of fame into a lifetime leverage. He took his type and made it a brand. He took his passion and made it a business. He went from being a starving artist living in a loft to a Mughal who still sleeps in that loft sometimes because he refuses to forget where he came from. So what is the takeaway for you sitting there watching this? It's that failure is not the opposite of success, it's a part of it. Jason Momoa was told no for a decade. He was broke, he was embarrassed, but he never surrendered his authenticity. He kept the long hair, he kept the tattoos, he kept the heart. If you are struggling in your career and if you feel like you are in that drought period between Game of Thrones and Aquaman, don't quit. Keep showing up, keep building your skills, keep treating people with respect at the comic cons of your life. Because the world eventually catches up to authenticity, the world eventually rewards the person who refuses to quit. Jason Momoa is not a millionaire because he got lucky. He is a millionaire because he outlasted his doubt. He outworked his competition and he loved his family enough to keep fighting when fighting was the last thing he wanted to do. If this story inspired you to keep pushing today, hit that like button, share with someone who needs to hear they are not alone in the struggle. Don't forget to subscribe because we bring you stories like this every week. Remember, it's not about where you start, it's about the journey you refuse to give up on. I will see you in the next one.